Why is it that the moment you become completely available to someone, they seem to lose interest? You text back immediately, you're always free when they call, you drop everything to spend time with them, and somehow that very availability becomes the thing that pushes them away. It's one of the most frustrating paradoxes in dating and relationships. The more you show up, the more they seem to check out. The more you invest, the less they seem to care. And if you're like most people, you've probably wondered what's wrong with you, why your genuine interest and availability isn't appreciated the way it should be. But here's what nobody tells you. Availability isn't the problem. The way you're being available is. Think about it. When something is always there, always accessible, always within reach, it loses its value in our minds. It's basic human psychology. We treasure what's scarce, we chase what's elusive, and we take for granted what's constantly available. This isn't about playing games or being manipulative. It's about understanding how attraction and desire actually work. The truth is, when you're always available, you're not just being nice. You're accidentally communicating something much deeper about your own self-worth and the value you place on your own time. You're saying, without words, that you don't have much else going on, that your life isn't full enough to sometimes be unavailable, that she's the most important thing in your world, even when she's done nothing to earn that position. And here's the uncomfortable reality. That's not attractive. It's not mysterious. It's not intriguing. It's predictable, and predictability is the enemy of passion. But unavailability, true unavailability, that creates something powerful. It creates space for her imagination to fill in the gaps. It makes her wonder what you're doing, who you're with, what's so important that you can't always be at her beck and call. It forces her to actually miss you rather than taking your presence for granted. Now, before we go any further, let me be clear about what I'm not saying. I'm not suggesting you become cold, distant, or cruel. I'm not telling you to ignore her for days or play elaborate mind games. That's not unavailability. That's just being an asshole. And there's a huge difference. Real unavailability comes from having a life so full, so rich, so engaging that you genuinely can't always be available. It comes from having priorities that sometimes take precedence over responding to her text within 30 seconds. It comes from having goals, hobbies, friendships, and ambitions that matter to you as much as, or sometimes more than, whatever she's doing in that moment. This is about becoming genuinely scarce, not artificially scarce. There's a massive difference between the two, and she'll know which one you're doing. When you're genuinely unavailable, it's because you're building something. You're at the gym, not because you want to seem busy, but because you're committed to your fitness goals. You're not responding immediately because you're deep in a work project that actually matters to you. You're not free this weekend because you've got plans with friends you genuinely care about. Or you're pursuing a hobby that brings you joy. This kind of unavailability is magnetic because it's real. It signals that you're a person with substance, with priorities, with a life that doesn't revolve entirely around her. And that's incredibly attractive. But here's where most guys get this wrong. They think unavailability means being rude, being dismissive, or creating fake scenarios to seem busy. They'll ignore texts for arbitrary amounts of time or make up elaborate stories about where they've been. This isn't unavailability. This is manipulation, and it always backfires eventually. Real unavailability is about boundaries, not games. It's about having standards for your own time and energy. It's about understanding that your attention is valuable and you don't give it away for free to just anyone. When you truly embrace this mindset, something interesting happens. You stop being so available, not because you're trying to make her chase you, but because you genuinely have better things to do sometimes. And that shift in your internal state, that's what she picks up on. That's what makes her start to wonder, to question, to actually think about you when you're not around. Think about the people in your own life who you find most intriguing. Are they the ones who are always available, always eager to please, always putting your needs first? Or are they the ones who have their own lives, their own priorities, their own sense of what matters to them? The ones who care about you but don't lose themselves in the process? The answer is obvious. We're drawn to people who have their own gravity, their own center. People who enhance our lives without becoming completely dependent on our approval for their sense of self-worth. This is what unavailability really creates. It forces you to develop your own gravity. It requires you to build a life that's worth living even if she's not in it. And paradoxically, that makes you infinitely more attractive to her. When you're genuinely unavailable sometimes, she starts to see you as a prize worth winning rather than a given. She begins to appreciate the time you do spend together because it's not guaranteed. She values your attention because it's not something she can take for granted. But here's the key. You can't fake this. You can't just pretend to be busy while secretly waiting for her next text. You can't create artificial scarcity while your life is actually empty. She'll sense the difference, and it'll come across as needy and manipulative rather than confident and centered. The only way to truly master unavailability is to actually become unavailable. To build a life so rich, so fulfilling, so engaging that you sometimes genuinely can't drop everything for her. To develop interests, goals, and relationships that matter to you independent of her approval or attention. This means saying no sometimes, even when you could say yes. It means having plans that don't include her. It means pursuing goals that fulfill you whether she's watching or not. It means building friendships, hobbies, and passions that exist entirely separate from your romantic life. When you do this, when you become genuinely unavailable, you'll notice something remarkable happening. She'll start reaching out more. She'll start initiating conversations. She'll start making effort to see you rather than expecting you to always make the effort to see her. And here's the beautiful irony. The less available you become, the more present you'll be when you are together, because you're not taking that time for granted, because you've chosen to be there rather than defaulting to being there, because your attention is focused and intentional, not scattered and desperate. This is what creates obsession, not games, not manipulation, not artificial scarcity, but genuine value. When you become someone whose time and attention actually matter, whose presence is a choice rather than a given, whose life is rich enough that being with her is an addition to your happiness rather than the source of it. The woman who obsesses over you isn't obsessing because you're playing hard to get. She's obsessing because you've become someone worth obsessing over, someone whose attention feels valuable because it genuinely is valuable, someone whose time feels precious because you treat it as precious. So if you want her to obsess over you, stop being so available. Not because you want to play games, but because you want to build a life worth living. Not because you want to manipulate her, but because you want to become the kind of person whose presence is genuinely valued. Become unavailable by becoming valuable. Build a life so rich that you sometimes can't drop everything for anyone. Develop priorities that matter to you as much as she does. Create standards for your time and energy that reflect your actual worth. When you do this, you won't need to wonder if she's thinking about you. You won't need to chase her attention or beg for her time. Because unavailable people don't chase, they attract. And attraction, real attraction, is always mutual. Be unavailable. Watch what happens. And remember, the goal isn't to make her obsess. The goal is to become someone worth obsessing over.